They held the disabled veteran's wheelchair, forcing her to watch as they viciously kicked her loyal military working dog. The dog who had saved her life in Afghanistan could only cry out in pain. The men laughed, believing their money and connections could buy them out of any crime. But they didn't count on one thing. Her husband was a Navy SEAL, and he was about to deliver a lesson in justice they would never forget. The Virginia coast morning carried the smell of salt and pine through Riverside Park. Sarah Chen sat in her wheelchair near the eastern overlook, a thermos of coffee on her lap desk, watching the naval vessels move slowly across the Chesapeake Bay horizon. At 32, Captain Sarah Chen, United States Army, retired, had the kind of face that photographed well in uniform. Strong jawline, intelligent dark eyes, black hair still pulled back in the regulation bun she wore out of habit. 3 years ago, she'd been a combat medic with the 10th Mountain Division. 3 years ago, she'd had the use of her legs. The IED in Kandahar province had changed everything in a flash of heat and pressure. She remembered treating her own soldiers, even as her spinal cord severed. She remembered the doctors telling her she'd never walk again. What she'd earned, a Purple Heart, a medical retirement, and the knowledge that she'd kept 3 soldiers alive. Beside her wheelchair, Rex lay in the sun-warmed grass. The Belgian Malinois was 75 pounds of muscle and intelligence, his tan and black coat gleaming. Rex was a retired military working dog, an explosive detection specialist with 4 deployments. He'd been Sarah's partner on that last tour, the dog who'd tried to warn them before the blast. After the explosion, Rex had refused to leave her side. When Sarah was stateside and stable, she'd adopted him. Now they were inseparable. Rex was trained for mobility assistance, could retrieve items, and alert to Sarah's PTSD episodes. But more than that, he was her battle buddy. Sarah's phone buzzed. Her husband, Marcus. 5 miles done. Stopping for eggs. Want anything? She smiled and typed, "Blueberry muffin." The real ones? Not the cardboard fitness ones you like. "Yes, ma'am. Home in 20. Love you." Marcus Chen was a Navy SEAL assigned to Development Group. He'd been her physical therapist at Walter Reed, pushing her through the darkest months without pity or coddling. They'd fallen in love between reps and late-night conversations about rebuilding yourself. 2 years married, and every day she was grateful. Sarah checked her watch. Another hour before Marcus got home. Maybe she'd do a lap around the park. Then Rex's head snapped up. His ears went forward, his body tensing. A low rumble started in his chest. Sarah's hand stilled. She'd learned to trust that sound with her life. "What is it, boy?" Rex's eyes fixed on the parking lot. A massive black Escalade with illegal tint pulled in, bass thumping. It parked badly across 2 spaces. 3. Young men spilled out, laughing loudly. Early 20s, expensive athletic wear, designer sneakers worth more than her wheelchair. They carried themselves with the arrogance of never being told no. Sarah recognized the type immediately. Defense contractor kids, politician children who treated the world as their playground. She'd enlisted partly to escape that world. The tallest one, blonde, artfully messy hair, looked directly at her. His gaze swept over her wheelchair, over Rex. His lip curled in contempt. He said something to his friends. They laughed, looking back at her. Sarah felt ice in her stomach. She knew that look. She'd seen it in people who viewed her disability as a moral failing. She turned away deliberately. "Ignore them," she murmured to Rex. But she could feel their attention like a weight. The morning's peace was gone. Sarah had never been good at being ignored, and she'd never been good at ignoring injustice. Before the Army, she'd been the kid who stood between bullies and their targets. The Army had given her a place where that instinct was required. As a medic, she'd had license to run toward gunfire, to put her body between her soldiers and death. She'd been exceptional. Combat Medical Badge, Army Commendation Medal with Valor, Purple Heart in a drawer she never opened. All that strength now lived in a body that couldn't stand. The central frustration, her mind remembered how to fight. Her body wouldn't. She'd spent 2 years rebuilding upper body strength, learning new ways to move. She could outbench most men. But none of that mattered when someone was standing over her. The vulnerability wasn't physical weakness, it was geometry. When you couldn't stand, you were always at a disadvantage, always looking up, always in a position where someone could control your movement by grabbing your chair. The 3 men had moved to an open field 50 yards away, throwing a football, but their attention kept drifting back. Rex felt it too. Positioned between Sarah and the men, his body language shifted to alert. Sarah could leave, roll back to her van, be gone before anything happened. But that felt like retreat, like letting them win. She'd never retreated in her life. She pulled out her phone, making a show of relaxing. The message, "I'm not afraid of you." It was exactly the wrong decision. Brandon Westfield IV, West, to his friends, was bored. Bored was his default state. Son of Westfield Defense Solutions, trust fund generating more monthly interest than most salaries, every door open, every consequence negotiable. Life was flat, predictable. He'd tried the usual fixes: cars, women, expensive drugs. Dropped out of Georgetown because class felt beneath him. His father hadn't cared. The Westfield name opened more doors than any degree. What West craved was power. Not inherited, but taken. The power of watching someone realize they couldn't stop you, that rules didn't apply to you. He found it in small, ugly ways. Humiliating service workers, making people cry, finding weakness and exploiting it. His friends Tyler and Connor weren't friends, they were accomplices and audience. Tyler, son of a Virginia senator, had learned cruelty from his father. Connor was nervous, a follower who laughed at West's jokes because being in his orbit beat being outside it. Then West spotted her. The woman in the wheelchair with the dog. Something clicked in his chest. She was pretty in a severe way, probably never looked twice at him despite his money. And vulnerable. Sitting alone, unable to run, easy prey. "Check it out," he told Tyler and Connor, nodding toward Sarah. "Think she needs help?" The way he said help meant the opposite. Now, pretending to throw the football, West's attention kept drifting back. He noticed how she deliberately turned away, hand resting on her dog's head, the small defiant tilt of her chin. She was ignoring him, dismissing him. The boredom evaporated, replaced by something meaner. "She's got that 'I'm too good for you' vibe," West said. "Like we're beneath her." Tyler grinned. "We should fix that." Exactly what I was thinking. West looked at the dog, the intelligence in those eyes. He didn't like it. He made his decision. He tucked the football under his arm and walked toward her. Tyler and Connor followed. Sarah saw them coming. Rex was on his feet instantly, positioning between her and the men. His rumble was audible now, continuous warning. The 3 stopped 6 feet away, just inside her personal space. The blonde one smiled. It wasn't friendly. "Morning," he said, lazy confidence in his voice. "Nice dog. What's his name?" Sarah's training kicked in. Assess, control, de-escalate. These weren't combatants, just stupid kids. "His name's Rex," she said calmly. "He's a service dog. He's working, so I'd appreciate if you didn't distract him." The lie was automatic. Rex was retired MWD, not legally a service dog, but civilians didn't know the difference. West's smile didn't waver. "Service dog, huh? What's he service you for?" The innuendo made her skin crawl. "Mobility assistance," she said flatly. "Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to get back to my morning." She started to turn her chair. West grabbed her armrest. The world stopped. Sarah froze. Rex's rumble escalated to a full growl, lips pulling back from teeth. "Hey now," West said, grip firm. "That's not very friendly. We're just trying to be nice." Sarah's voice went cold and flat, the voice she'd used on unruly privates. "Take your hand off my chair. Now." West's smile faltered, surprise flickering. He wasn't used to being spoken to that way. Tyler stepped closer, flanking left. Connor hung back, uncomfortable but unwilling to intervene. "Or what?" West asked, voice dropping. "What are you going to do about it, sweetheart?" Rex lunged. Military working dogs aren't pets. They're weapon systems with fur and 75 pounds of bite force. Rex had been trained by the best army handlers, conditioned to detect threats and protect his handler. For 3 years, his handler had been Sarah Chen, and someone had just grabbed her. Rex's lunge was explosive, but he didn't bite training held. Instead, he positioned directly between West and Sarah, body a living barrier, snarl primal and terrifying. West stumbled backward, hand jerking away, face pale. "Jesus Christ!" "Rex Blythe," Sarah commanded in Dutch. "Heel!" The dog obeyed instantly, returning to her side, but eyes never left West. His message, "Touch her again, and I won't stop." West's shock morphed to fury, impotent rage from being frightened in front of an audience. "Your dog just tried to attack me." "My dog," Sarah said, ice cold, "protected me from you assaulting me, which is what you were doing when you grabbed my wheelchair without permission." "That's battery." Tyler's eyes narrowed. "Battery? You're playing lawyer with us?" "I'm not playing anything. You need to walk away. Now. Before this gets worse." Wrong thing to say. Never challenge an entitled bully. Never back them into a corner where walking away looks like weakness. West's face flushed dark red. "Before it gets worse? You think you're threatening us?" He stepped forward. Rex snarled, haunches tensing. "Easy, Rex," Sarah said, voice shaking. Control was slipping. These weren't rational actors. "That dog is dangerous," West said, voice rising. "He tried to attack me." "Tyler, Connor, you saw it, right?" Tyler nodded immediately. Completely unprovoked. Sarah's blood ran cold. They were building a narrative. Rex as aggressor, them as victims. "That's not what happened," she said weakly. West pulled out his phone. "I think I need to call animal control, report a dangerous dog. Maybe they'll have to put him down." The threat hung in the air. Sarah felt something crack inside. Not Rex. They couldn't take Rex. "Don't," she whispered. "Please. He didn't do anything wrong." West's smile returned, triumphant. "Then, maybe you should apologize. For him. For being rude. For acting like you're better than everyone else." Tyler stepped closer, right side. Connor moved left. They boxed her in, triangle around her wheelchair. Sarah's hands tightened on her armrests. Every combat instinct screamed to fight, to move. But she was sitting, trapped, surrounded. "I'm not apologizing for anything," she said, hating how small her voice sounded. "You grabbed me. You started this." West shrugged. "That's not how I remember it. I remember trying to pet your dog, him going crazy. I remember you being hostile. That's what I'll tell the cops." He looked at Rex, something cruel and calculating entering his expression. "Of course, if the dog were to get aggressive again, right now, with all of us as witnesses, that would make the case stronger, wouldn't it?" Sarah's breath caught. "What are you—" West grabbed a heavy stick from the ground, 2 feet long. He hefted it, testing weight. "No," Sarah said, understanding flooding through her. "Don't. Rex, right? Here, boy. Come here." Rex's growl deepened. He stayed at Sarah's side, body coiled. "West, man, come on," Connor said nervously. "This is getting—" "Shut up." West took another step toward Rex, raising the stick. "What's wrong, dog?" "Blythe," Sarah commanded, voice breaking. "Rex, stay." But Rex was a protection dog first. His handler was in danger. When West swung the stick, Rex moved. He didn't bite. He dodged, the stick whistling past, then lunged, teeth snapping closed on wood, wrenching it from West's grip. "See?" West shouted, jumping back. "He's attacking! Get him!" Tyler didn't hesitate. He stepped forward and kicked. His designer sneaker caught Rex squarely in the ribs. The dog yelped a high, agonized sound Sarah had never heard and stumbled sideways. The stick fell. "No!" Sarah screamed, lunging forward in her chair, hands reaching uselessly. "Stop!" Tyler kicked again, catching Rex in the shoulder. The dog went down, legs folding, body hitting grass. Connor was there too, fear transforming to mob violence, foot driving into Rex's hindquarters. Sarah was screaming, wordless rage and terror. She grabbed her wheels, trying to propel forward to put herself between them and her dog, but Tyler was faster. He stepped behind and grabbed both armrests, holding her chair immobile. "Let go of me!" Sarah shouted, thrashing, hands clawing at his grip. "Shut up!" Tyler hissed in her ear. Wes stood over Rex, who was trying to get up, trying to drag himself toward Sarah despite pain. The dog's eyes locked on hers, and Sarah saw something she'd never seen before. Fear. "Please," she choked out, tears streaming. "Please, he's just a dog. He didn't do anything. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. Just leave him alone." West looked at her tears, at the complete defeat. And he smiled. "There we go," he said softly. "That's what I wanted to hear. A little humility." He drew back his foot. Sarah closed her eyes. She couldn't watch. The kick never landed. Marcus Chen had been a Navy SEAL for 8 years, 40 combat missions across 3 deployments. Fast-roped from helicopters, conducted underwater demolitions, pulled triggers in situations most people couldn't imagine. But the sound from across the park, a woman's scream, raw and desperate, activated something older than training, something cellular. He'd been jogging back from the grocery store, taking the long route through the park, thinking about breakfast, about his Monday debriefing. Then he heard his wife scream. Marcus didn't think. He moved. His body shifted from distance jog to combat sprint. The grocery bag dropped somewhere. Vision tunneled, breath regulated, mind cold and clear. 200 yards in less than 20 seconds. The scene printed itself on his brain in a single tactical snapshot. 3 hostiles. 1 behind Sarah's wheelchair, restraining her. 2 in front, standing over something on the ground. Sarah's face, tear-streaked, contorted with terror. Rex Marcus saw Rex on the ground, trying to get up. Something inside him went very still and very quiet. His approach was silent. They were so focused on Sarah and the dog, they didn't hear him. He came from their 6, footfalls soft, breathing controlled. Tyler holding Sarah's wheelchair was first threat. Marcus evaluated and acted in one smooth motion, no announcement, no warning. Left hand seized Tyler's right wrist. Right hand clamped Tyler's elbow. Then he twisted, applying standing armbar with precise, devastating force. Tyler's scream was high-pitched and startled. Marcus used his momentum to spin him away from Sarah's chair, driving him face first into the ground. One knee pressed into Tyler's back, pinning him. 2 seconds from initial contact to complete control. Connor spun around, eyes wide, mouth opening. Marcus's left hand shot out palm heel strike to solar plexus. Connor's breath evacuated in one whooping gasp. He folded, dropping to his knees, unable to breathe. 3 seconds, 2 threats neutralized. West was backing away, hands coming up in reflexive surrender. He'd been halfway through that kick when Marcus appeared like a nightmare. Marcus released Tyler, who curled into a ball, clutching his arm, and stood slowly. 5'10", compact and dense with muscle, gray navy t-shirt, dark with sweat. His face was utterly expressionless, dark eyes flat and cold. He stepped over Connor and walked toward West. "Wait," West stammered, backing up. "Wait, man, you don't understand." Marcus didn't stop. His pace was measured, controlled, but inexorable. Something that made West's hindbrain scream predator. "The dog attacked us," West said, voice cracking. "We were defending ourselves. We didn't do anything wrong." Marcus stopped 6 feet away. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, almost conversational, which made it infinitely more terrifying. "You have 3 seconds to get on your knees. If you run, I will catch you. If you fight, I will hurt you. 3. West looked around wildly for help, for witnesses, for anything. 2. "Okay." West dropped to his knees, hands shooting up. "Okay, Jesus, don't I'm down." Marcus looked past him to Sarah. She was staring, face white, hands trembling. Rex was still on the ground, whimpering, trying to stand. "Baby," Marcus said, voice softening a fraction. "Are you hurt?" Sarah shook her head mutely. Marcus nodded once. Then he looked down at West, and the coldness returned. "What's your name?" "I West. Brandon Westfield." "Brandon," Marcus said quietly, "I want you to understand something. That woman you just terrorized? That dog you were about to kick? Those are mine. Do you understand what that means?" West didn't answer. He was shaking, expensive clothes, grass-stained, face splotchy with fear. Marcus crouched to eye level. "It means you just made the worst mistake of your life. It means that for however long I decide, your life is about to become very, very difficult." He stood and pulled out his phone. "What are you doing?" West asked, voice small. "Calling the police," Marcus said calmly. "Assault on a disabled person, animal cruelty, battery. They're going to arrest you." Tyler, still on the ground, found his voice. "You attacked us." "You're the one who assaulted me." Marcus looked at him. Tyler's voice died. "I'm a Navy SEAL," Marcus said, voice quiet, conversational. "I just watched you three assault my wife, a decorated combat veteran, and attack her service dog. I used minimal force to subdue you while preventing ongoing harm. Any force I used was lawful and necessary." He looked at each of them. "And I guarantee you, the story I tell is the story the police will believe." He dialed 911, eyes never leaving West's face. Brandon Westfield, who'd never experienced a real consequence in his life, felt the first cold fingers of genuine fear. The police arrived in 6 minutes, 2 Hampton Roads patrol officers in a black and white Crown Victoria, lights flashing. Officer Jennifer Martinez stepped out, first 12-year veteran, sharp eyes already scanning the scene. Her partner, Officer David Kim, moved to flank, hand resting near his sidearm. Marcus had his military ID out before they reached him. Marcus Chen, Special Warfare Operator, SEAL Team assigned to Development Group. "My wife was assaulted by these 3 men, and her service dog was attacked. I subdued them using appropriate force." Martinez took the ID, examined it, handed it back. Her entire demeanor shifted when she saw the SEAL trident. "Sir, can you walk me through what happened?" Marcus's recounting was precise, clinical, leaving nothing out. He'd been trained in after-action reports, knew how to present facts that would hold up in court. Sarah, still in her wheelchair, was shaking but nodding confirmation at every point. Rex had managed to get to his feet, limping badly. Marcus had checked him quickly, bruised ribs, possible muscle damage, but nothing broken. The dog now leaned against Sarah's chair, her hand buried in his fur. Tyler was still clutching his arm, moaning. Connor sat on the ground, breathing, returning to normal, looking like he might vomit. West knelt where Marcus had told him to, his earlier arrogance completely evaporated. Martinez moved to Sarah. "Ma'am, I need to get your statement." Sarah's voice was hoarse from screaming. "They grabbed my wheelchair, threatened to have Rex put down. Then they started kicking him. I couldn't stop them. I couldn't." Her voice broke. Marcus moved to her side, one hand on her shoulder. Martinez nodded, writing everything down. Then she moved to the 3 men. "I need your IDs. All of you." West pulled out his wallet with shaking hands. Martinez examined the license, and her eyebrows rose slightly. "Westfield. Any relation to Westfield Defense Solutions?" "That's my father," West said, some of his confidence returning. "And you should know, we were defending ourselves from that vicious dog. These 2 attacked us unprovoked. My father's lawyers, your father's lawyers can meet you at the station." Martinez cut him off. "Right now I have 2 witnesses, a Navy SEAL and a retired Army captain, saying you assaulted a disabled veteran and her service dog. That's a felony." Tyler spoke up, voice pained. "He broke my arm. That SEAL broke my arm." Officer Kim had been examining Tyler. "It's not broken. Hyperextended elbow, maybe a sprain. You'll live. Martinez turned back to Marcus. "Sir, I need to ask, did you use any strikes? Any force beyond restraint?" "One arm bar to control the first subject, one palm heel strike to the solar plexus of the second to prevent his interference. Minimal force necessary to stop an ongoing assault." Martinez nodded. She'd seen the type before, entitled kids who thought money bought immunity. She'd also seen combat veterans who knew exactly how much force was justified. "I'm going to need to take statements from everyone, and we'll need to document your wife's injuries and the dog's condition. I want Rex seen by a vet immediately," Sarah said. Her first full sentence since Marcus arrived. "Before anything else." Martinez nodded. "We can arrange that. Kim, call animal control. Tell them we need a veterinary assessment for evidence collection in an assault case." West's face went pale. "Evidence collection? You're actually charging us?" "Assault on a disabled person is a Class 6 felony in Virginia," Martinez said flatly. "Animal cruelty is Class 1 misdemeanor at minimum, Class 5 felony, if the animal suffered serious injury. Yeah, I'm charging you." She pulled out handcuffs. "Brandon Westfield, Tyler Ashford, Connor Blake, you're under arrest for assault and battery, assault on a disabled person, and animal cruelty. You have the right to remain silent." The booking process took 3 hours. Marcus stayed with Sarah and Rex at the emergency veterinary clinic while 2,000 statements were processed. The vet doctor, Patricia Okoye, who'd treated multiple military working dogs in her career, examined Rex with gentle, expert hands. "Bruised ribs, here, here, and here," she said, pointing to Rex's left side. "Significant muscle trauma to the right shoulder, some internal bruising to the hindquarters. He's lucky, nothing broken, no organ damage. But he's going to be in significant pain for several weeks." She looked at Sarah with kind eyes. "He protected you. That's what he's trained to do. But dogs feel pain, just like we do. He's going to need rest, pain management, and probably some behavioral monitoring. Trauma affects dogs too." Sarah was crying again, silent tears running down her face. "Can I see the x-rays? I need documentation. For court." Dr. Okoye nodded. "I'll prepare a complete medical report with imaging. And Sarah?" She waited until Sarah met her eyes. "You did nothing wrong. What happened to Rex isn't your fault." But Sarah couldn't accept that. Not yet. In the interrogation room at Hampton Roads Police Department, Brandon Westfield was learning what consequences felt like. His father's lawyer, Thomas Brennan, 63 years old, silver-haired, expensive suit, sat beside him. Brennan had gotten Westfield kids out of DUIs, minor drug charges, even an assault case that had been quietly settled. But looking at the evidence Detective Sarah Vega was laying out, even he looked troubled. "We have statements from 2 credible witnesses, including a decorated Navy SEAL," Vega said, her voice professionally neutral. "We have medical documentation of injuries to the victim's service dog. We have your own admission that you struck the animal, though you claim self-defense." "It was self-defense," West insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. "The dog lunged at me." "After you grabbed his handler's wheelchair without permission," Vega countered. "After you threatened to have him put down. After you created a threatening situation. Virginia law is very clear. You can't claim self-defense when you're the initial aggressor." Brennan leaned forward. "Detective, my client is willing to make restitution. Medical bills for the dog, compensation for emotional distress. We can settle this civilly." "This isn't a civil matter anymore," Vega said. "This is felony assault on a disabled person. Your client and his friends cornered a woman in a wheelchair, terrorized her, and beat her service dog while she was physically restrained. That's not something we settle with a check." West's face was white. "I didn't know she was military." "I didn't know? You didn't know she was human?" Vega's voice finally held an edge. "You didn't know that disabled people have rights? You didn't know that attacking a dog is a crime?" Brennan put a hand on West's arm, silencing him. "We'd like to discuss a plea arrangement." "Talk to the DA." Vega said, standing. "But I'll tell you right now, this is going to court. And when a jury sees that disabled combat veteran and her service dog, here's what you did to them, your client's going to prison." The media picked up the story within 24 hours. Defense contractor's son, charged in assault on disabled vet. The Virginian pilot Navy SEAL, stops attack on wife. Retired Army captain, Navy Times. 3 men charged with beating service dog. Terrorizing owner, Associated Press. By day 2, it had gone national. Video from a park security camera, grainy but damning, showed the assault. It showed Tyler grabbing Sarah's wheelchair. It showed West and Connor kicking Rex. It showed Sarah's anguished screaming. It also showed Marcus's arrival, the clinical efficiency with which he'd neutralized 3 men in seconds without causing serious injury. The video went viral. Public reaction was immediate and savage. Brandon Westfield's social media accounts, previously full of yacht parties and expensive cars, were flooded with death threats. Tyler's father, Senator Ashford, held a press conference attempting damage control, but it backfired when reporters pressed him on his son's history of violent behavior. Connor Blake, the follower who'd kicked Rex while caught up in mob violence, issued a tearful public apology video. "I was wrong. I was scared and stupid, and I hurt an innocent animal. I hurt a woman who served our country. I'm sorry. It didn't help him," the charges stood. But it was West who fascinated the internet. Brandon Westfield IV, son of privilege, who'd never worked a day in his life, who'd assaulted a disabled combat veteran for the crime of existing in his space. He became a symbol, a focal point for rage about inequality, about entitled rich kids, about the way the system protected some people and discarded others. Westfield Defense Solutions, a company with billions in government contracts, tried to distance itself. Brandon Sr. issued a statement. "My son's alleged actions do not reflect the values of our Dovell company or our family. We are cooperating fully with law enforcement." But the damage was done. Number Westfield boycott started trending. Congressional representatives started asking questions about the company's contracts. Military veterans groups organized protests outside Westfield headquarters. Marcus and Sarah watched the media storm from their home, Rex recuperating on a special orthopedic dog bed Marcus had ordered. Sarah was numb, overwhelmed by the attention. She'd given one brief statement to the press. "I just want justice for Rex. And I want other disabled people to know that what happened to us was a crime, not something we have to accept." Marcus was more strategic. He understood information warfare, understood how to control a narrative. He gave carefully considered interviews to military press, always emphasizing the same points: Sarah's service, her sacrifice, the fact that she'd been targeted for being disabled. "My wife served her country with honor," he told Navy Times. "She earned the right to exist in public spaces without being terrorized." Rex earned his retirement with 4 combat deployments. What happened to them is unconscionable. The pressure built. The Commonwealth's attorney, facing public outcry and overwhelming evidence, announced that all 3 defendants would be charged with the maximum offenses: Class 6 felony assault on a disabled person, Class 5 felony animal cruelty, and multiple misdemeanor charges. West's lawyer tried one more time to negotiate a plea. The DA's office refused. This was going to trial. 6 months later, the trial began in Hampton Roads Circuit Court. The courtroom was packed media, veterans advocates, disability rights groups, and just regular people who'd followed the story. Judge Patricia Morrison, a no-nonsense jurist with 30 years on the bench, had already denied multiple defense motions to exclude evidence or change venue. The prosecution's case was methodical and devastating. They started with the video, playing it on a large screen for the jury. Even in grainy security footage, the violence was clear. You could see Sarah trying to get away, see Tyler grab her wheelchair, see the kicks landing on Rex, hear Sarah's screams. Several jurors looked away. Then Sarah testified. She rolled to the witness stand in her wheelchair. Rex at her side, the judge, had granted permission for him to accompany her. She was wearing her dress uniform, her Purple Heart, and other medals displayed on her chest. It was a calculated choice, and it was effective. The prosecutor, Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney Maria Gonzalez, walked her through her service record. 4 years, active duty. Multiple deployments. The IED blast. The injuries. The retirement. Captain Chen, can you describe for the jury your relationship with Rex? Sarah's hand rested on Rex's head as she spoke. Rex was my military working dog partner in Afghanistan. He saved my life multiple times by detecting explosives. When I was my day injured, he tried to stay with me. After I was stateside, I adopted him. He's not just a service dog, he's my partner, my family. And on the morning of March 15th, what were you doing at Riverside Park? Sarah described the routine. The peace of the morning, the arrival of the 3 defendants. She described feeling threatened, described West grabbing her wheelchair. What did you do when he grabbed your chair? I told him to let go. I told him it was battery. I tried to de-escalate. And what happened then? Sarah's voice remained steady, but her hand tightened on Rex's fur. Rex tried to protect me. He didn't bite, didn't attack, he just positioned himself between me and Mr. Westfield. Then Mr. Westfield got a stick and tried to hit him. When Rex defended himself by grabbing the stick, they started kicking him. Who started kicking him? All 3 of them. Mr. Ashford first, then Mr. Blake, then Mr. Westfield. Mr. Ashford was holding my wheelchair, so I couldn't move, couldn't help Rex. I was screaming for them to stop. They wouldn't stop. What were you feeling? Sarah's composure cracked slightly. Terror. Complete helplessness. I'm trained in combat medicine. I've treated trauma under fire. But I couldn't do anything. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't fight them. I couldn't protect my dog. All I could do was watch them hurt him and beg them to stop. Several jurors were visibly emotional. The defense attorney, Thomas Brennan, tried his best on cross-examination. He suggested Rex had been aggressive, that his clients had felt threatened, that they'd overreacted but hadn't intended harm. Sarah looked at him with the flat, cold gaze of someone who'd seen combat. Mr. Brennan, your clients grabbed my wheelchair, threatened to have my dog put down, and then beat him while I was physically restrained. That's not an overreaction. That's not feeling threatened. That's torture. That's terrorizing a disabled person for entertainment. Brennan had no good died. Response. Dr. Okoye testified next, walking the jury through Rex's injuries with X-rays and medical documentation. She explained how the pattern of injuries, multiple impact sites, defensive positioning was consistent with assault, not with a dog behaving aggressively. In my professional opinion, she concluded, Rex was protecting his handler from a perceived threat and was then subjected to deliberate, repeated violence. Marcus testified on day 3. Where Sarah had been emotional but controlled, Marcus was clinical. He described what he'd witnessed, the exact sequence of events, his response. I used minimal necessary force to stop an ongoing assault, he said. I did not strike with intent to injure, only to control. My priority was ending the threat to my wife and her dog. On cross-examination, Brennan tried to paint Marcus as a trained killer who'd overreacted, used excessive force. It backfired spectacularly. Mr. Brennan, Marcus said, his voice quiet and measured, I'm trained to kill people at 100 yards in complete darkness. If I'd wanted to seriously injure your clients, they'd be in the hospital, not sitting in this courtroom. I showed restraint. They showed none. The defense's case was weak. They called character witnesses for West, Tyler, and Connor, friends and family, who testified they were good kids who'd made a mistake. They tried to argue the dog had been aggressive, that the situation had escalated beyond their control. But they couldn't explain the video. They couldn't explain why Tyler had grabbed Sarah's wheelchair. They couldn't explain why they'd continued kicking Rex even after he was down and whimpering. Connor Blake had taken a plea deal at the last minute, pleading guilty to misdemeanor animal cruelty in exchange for testifying against West and Tyler. His testimony was damning. West wanted to scare her, Connor said, looking miserable. He thought it was funny, her being in the wheelchair, acting like she wasn't afraid of us. He said we should teach her a lesson. When the dog defended her, West got mad, really mad. And then, we all just lost it. I don't know why. It was like, once it started, we couldn't stop. The prosecution rested after 5 days of testimony. In closing arguments, Maria Gonzalez stood before the jury with a blown-up photo of Sarah and Rex on the day she'd adopted him, both of them in front of Walter Reed Medical Center. "This woman served her country," she said quietly. "She ran toward danger to save lives. She lost the use of her legs protecting soldiers under her command. And when she was finally home, trying to live a normal life, 3 entitled young men decided she didn't deserve peace. They decided her disability made her vulnerable, made her a target. She pointed at the defense table. They terrorized her. They beat her dog while she screamed for them to stop, and they did it because they thought they could, because they'd never faced consequences before, because money and connections had always bought them out of trouble." She turned back to the jury. "Not this time. This time, justice has to mean something. This time, you have to tell them and everyone watching that disabled veterans deserve protection, that service animals deserve protection, that being rich and connected doesn't give you the right to hurt people." She sat down. Brennan's closing was competent but hollow. He couldn't overcome the evidence, couldn't make his clients sympathetic. He asked for mercy, suggested they were young and stupid rather than malicious. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Brandon Westfield IV, guilty of felony assault on a disabled person, felony animal cruelty, battery, threatening. Tyler Ashford, guilty of felony assault on a disabled person, felony animal cruelty, battery. Connor Blake, per his plea agreement, guilty of misdemeanor animal cruelty. West's face went white when the verdict was read. His mother sobbed in the gallery. His father sat stone-faced, already calculating damage control. Tyler looked sick, the reality of prison finally hitting him. Connor, who'd already pleaded guilty, looked relieved it was over. Judge Morrison scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks later. West and Tyler were remanded to custody pending sentencing, denied bail as flight risks given their resources. Connor was released on continued bail. Outside the courthouse, Sarah gave a brief statement to the press, Marcus at her side, Rex between them. "I'm grateful for justice," she said simply. "I hope this case sends a message. Disabled people are not acceptable targets. Service animals are not acceptable targets. We deserve dignity. We deserve peace. And people who violate that deserve consequences." The media exploded with coverage. Legal analysts called it a landmark case for disability rights. Veterans groups hailed it as a victory. Disability advocates praised Sarah's courage in testifying. But in the quiet of their home that night, Sarah broke down. "I don't feel victorious," she told Marcus, Rex's head in her lap. "I feel tired. I feel violated. I keep seeing them standing over him, hearing him whimper. And I couldn't stop them." Marcus held her, let her cry. "You did stop them. You testified. You made sure they faced justice. That takes a different kind of courage. Rex isn't the same," she whispered. "You've seen it. He's scared now. He flinches when men approach. They broke something in him." It was true. Rex had recovered physically, but psychologically the trauma lingered. The confident, calm dog, who'd been through 4 combat deployments, now showed anxiety around strangers, hypervigilance in public spaces. Sarah had started working with a veterinary behaviorist, but progress was slow. "They broke something, in both of us," Sarah said, "and nothing the court does will fix that." 2 weeks later, they returned to court for sentencing. Judge Morrison had reviewed the pre-sentence, investigation reports, victim impact statements, and letters from both sides. The courtroom was packed again. Marcus had helped Sarah prepare her victim impact statement, but when the moment came, she spoke from the heart. "Your Honor, Before March 15th, I believed I'd survived the worst day of my life. I'd been through an IED blast, paralysis, the end of my career. But I'd rebuilt. I'd found purpose. I'd found peace. Those 3 men took that peace from me. They made me feel helpless in a way the Taliban never did. Because the Taliban were enemy combatants, I understood that threat, knew how to respond to it. But these were American men in an American park who hurt me because they could, because they thought my disability made me less than human. Rex was my partner, my protector, my friend. He'd survived 4 combat deployments with me, and they beat him while I screamed for them to stop. They made me watch. They held my wheelchair so I couldn't even try to help him. The physical injuries healed. But the psychological damage? That's permanent. Rex is afraid now. He has nightmares. So do I. We both startle at sudden movements, panic in crowds. They took our sense of safety. I'm asking this court to send a message that disabled people matter, that our lives have value, that people who target us for violence deserve serious consequences. She paused, looking at West, Tyler, and Connor. I hope they learn from this. I hope they become better people. But mostly, I hope no one else ever experiences what Rex and I did that morning. Marcus testified next, his statement brief and pointed. Your Honor, I've seen combat. I've seen cruelty in war zones. What I witnessed these men do to my wife and her dog was as cruel as anything I've seen overseas. The difference is, enemy combatants have motivations, ideology, desperation, fear. These men were motivated by entitlement and boredom. That makes it worse, not better. Dr. Okoye submitted a written statement about Rex's ongoing psychological trauma. Then the defense made their case for leniency. West's parents testified, painting him as a good kid who'd made a mistake, who needed rehabilitation, not prison. Friends described his charity work minimal and court-ordered from previous offenses, the prosecution noted. His lawyer argued that prison would ruin his life, that he was young and deserved a second chance. Tyler's father, Senator Ashford, gave an impassioned speech about his son's potential, about how one mistake shouldn't define a life. He noted Tyler's acceptance to law school, deferred, his volunteer work also court-ordered, his remorse, unconvincing. Connor's statement was different. He'd already pleaded guilty, already accepted responsibility. His lawyer simply asked for mercy. Connor was a follower, his attorney said. He got caught up in something terrible. But he's taken responsibility. He's in therapy. He's volunteered at veteran centers, worked with disability, advocacy groups. He's trying to make amends. Judge Morrison listened to everything. Then she spoke. I've presided over criminal cases for 3 decades. I've seen people do terrible things for comprehensible reasons: poverty, addiction, desperation. This case is different. Mr. Westfield, Mr. Ashford, Mr. Blake, you had every advantage: education, wealth, opportunity. You had no reason to hurt anyone, no desperation driving you. You terrorized a disabled veteran and tortured her service dog because you were bored, because you felt entitled to, because you'd never been held accountable before. The evidence showed calculation, not impulse. Mr. Westfield, you grabbed Captain Chen's wheelchair, threatened her dog, orchestrated the entire incident. Mr. Ashford, you physically restrained her, held her chair while your friends beat her dog. You made her watch, unable to help. That's not a youthful mistake, that's sadism. Mr. Blake, you followed along. You claim you got caught up in the moment, but you had multiple opportunities to stop, to walk away, to intervene. You didn't. You chose to kick a defenseless animal. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. The court finds significant aggravating factors: the vulnerability of the victim, the deliberate nature of the assault, the lack of remorse during the incident, and the psychological harm inflicted. While Mr. Blake has shown some genuine remorse post-incident, that doesn't erase what he did. Brandon Westfield, I sentence you to 5 years in state prison for felony assault on a disabled person, 3 years for felony animal cruelty to run consecutively. 8 years total. No early release eligibility. Tyler Ashford, I sentence you to 4 years in state prison for felony assault on a disabled person, 3 years for felony animal cruelty to run consecutively. 7 years total. No early release eligibility. Connor Blake, I sentence you to 2 years in county jail for misdemeanor animal cruelty with work release eligibility after 1 year. Additionally, all 3 defendants are prohibited from owning animals for life, must complete anger management and empathy training, and are required to pay full restitution to Captain Chen for medical expenses, therapy costs, and punitive damages, totaling $250,000 collectively. West's mother collapsed in the gallery, sobbing. His father's face was purple with fury. Tyler looked shell-shocked. Connor accepted his sentence with visible relief. He'd expected worse. This court, Judge Morrison concluded, stands in defense of the vulnerable. These defendants learned today that wealth and connections cannot buy immunity from consequences. That disabled veterans deserve our respect and protection. That cruelty has a price. She struck her gavel. We're adjourned. The aftermath rippled for months. Westfield Defense Solutions lost 3 major contracts after congressional pressure. Brandon Sr. eventually removed himself from Daily Dald operations, the company rebranding to distance itself from the family name. Senator Ashford lost his re-election bid, his son's conviction becoming a campaign weapon his opponents wielded mercilessly. The Ashford family retreated from public life. Connor Blake served his year, was released, and actually followed through on rehabilitation. He completed a degree in social work and now works with veterans organizations. He sends Sarah an apology letter every year on the anniversary. She's never responded, but she keeps them. Tyler Ashford became a model prisoner, teaching literacy classes to other inmates. He'll be eligible for parole in 5 years. Sarah doesn't know if she'll oppose it when the time comes. Brandon Westfield did not adjust well to prison. Without money or connections, without the ability to buy his way out of discomfort, he struggled. He was placed in protective custody after multiple altercations. His parents visit once a month. He has 8 years ahead of him. For Sarah and Marcus, life slowly returned to normal, or a new version of normal. Rex never fully recovered his pre-assault confidence, but with time and patient behavioral work, he improved. He still serves as Sarah's mobility assistance dog, still sleeps beside her bed, still alerts to her PTSD episodes. But he's more cautious now, more protective. Sarah tells herself that's okay, that trauma changes everyone who experiences it, that healing doesn't mean returning to who you were before. She started speaking publicly about disability rights, about the violence disabled people face, about the importance of holding people accountable. She testified before the Virginia legislature in support of stronger penalties for crimes against disabled persons. Marcus stayed steady beside her through all of it, the quiet strength she leaned on. 1 year after the trial, Sarah returned to Riverside Park for the first time. It was early morning, the same time she used to come before. Marcus had offered to join her, but she declined. This was something she needed to do alone well, alone with Rex. She rolled to the same overlook where she used to sit, where everything had happened. The park looked the same, ancient oaks, playground equipment, the water stretching to the horizon. Naval vessels moved slowly in the distance. Rex sat beside her wheelchair, alert but not panicked. He'd been back to the park several times with Marcus for desensitization training, but this was Sarah's first return. "We're okay," she told him softly. "We survived. We're still here." The morning air carried salt and pine, that particular combination she'd missed. She opened her thermos, poured coffee, pulled out a book. She didn't read. She just sat, reclaiming the space, reclaiming her right to exist in public without fear. A woman jogging past slowed, recognized her. "Captain Chen?" Sarah tensed, but the woman's expression was kind. "I just wanted to say thank you for testifying. For fighting. My sister is disabled, and what you did, it matters. It really matters. Thank you, Sarah said, meaning it. The woman jogged on. Sarah sat there for 2 hours, watching the ships, drinking her coffee, one hand resting on Rex's head. People passed, some recognized her, some didn't. A few nodded respectfully. No one bothered her. The sun climbed higher, warming the morning. Rex relaxed, his head dropping to his paws, his eyes half closed in the sun. Sarah felt something inside her chest loosen, just slightly. She wasn't fully healed. Maybe she never would be. But she was here, in this space, on her terms. She'd survived the IED blast. She'd survived the assault. She'd survived the trial and the media circus and the long recovery. She was still standing well, still rolling, still fighting, still here. And that was enough. This story is fictional, but the issues it addresses are real. Disabled people face disproportionate rates of violence and harassment. Service animals are protected by law, but those protections are frequently ignored, and all too often perpetrators face minimal consequences because of wealth, connections, or public indifference. If you're disabled, if you rely on a service animal, if you've experienced harassment or assault, you're not alone. You deserve safety, you deserve dignity, you deserve justice. And to everyone else, disabled people aren't inspiration porn, aren't acceptable targets, aren't less than. They're veterans, professionals, parents, friends, people who deserve to exist in public spaces without fear. If you witness someone harassing a disabled person or interfering with their service animal, intervene if it's safe. Call the police if needed. Be a witness. Be an ally. Stand up. Speak up. Make the world safer for everyone.